there guys, my name is Sam Reed and I'm a photographer from Buffalo, New York. I'm here to talk to you a little bit about the gear that I use when I'm shooting. So I'll start off with my camera body. It's a Nikon D50-100. It is by no means the pinnacle or the standard of concert photography because it's a crop sensor camera, so it doesn't do quite as well in low light situations. But despite that, you can get the most quality images from this as long as you really know your photography and have a good lens to go along with it. I've been using this camera body for 4 years now, so I've had it since I started shooting, and this thing has seen some crazy ETID, Christmas show, hometown pits. It has seen hardcore show pits. It has seen house shows. So this camera body has really gotten thrown around and beaten up a little bit, and it still really does awesome at everything that it does. So this lens that I have on it right now is my favorite lens, and definitely the lens that I use the most often. It is a 35mm fixed lens. It's a 1.8 aperture. Prime lenses are my go-to, especially for concert stuff. This one is awesome because the 1.8 aperture really does a good job in the low light situations, so you can still get some pretty quality pictures, even though the crop sensor camera body has a little bit of a hard time going up with your ISO and getting grainier images. But this prime lens literally gets everything I need done. I use it for concert work and portrait work as well because the bokeh is really, really good on this lens. The other lens that I use the most is my 50mm 1.4 lens, and this one does a little bit better in the low light situations because it's a 1.4 aperture instead of the 1.8. But again, this is an amazing lens, does everything you want for as far as concert stuff goes, and it does really do good portrait work as well. The only reason I use that one any less is because I just prefer the 35 focal length, but that is definitely to each their own. Both of those are going to be really, really good options for the cheaper end of concert stuff. The 50 f1.4 is a little bit more expensive. They do have this exact same lens in an f1.8 though that you can get for a little bit cheaper, and it'll still pretty much do just as well. But those are the two lenses that I use the most. I do have my kit lens as well, but I don't use that because the aperture is 3.5 and it doesn't do well in low light situations. And I do prefer both of my prime lenses by far over that my kit lens. But I will use the kit lens every once in a blue moon if I just can't, if my focal lengths aren't working and I need something a little bit different and it's not a low light situation. But for the most part, my kit lens pretty much stays in my photo bag. I also have this newer Speedlight 752, and that's like version 2, not 752 the number. I don't pull this one out too often. This is going to be something that you're going to use only when you have to, because using a flash kit can really mess with other people's pictures, and you don't want to be that person that's ruining other people's photography. So only use this if you have to, and in situations that you're going to have to are probably house shows, some of those smaller hardcore or DIY venues that have really low lighting. You're going to want to use this. But again, I don't really try and bust this out unless I'm shooting specifically for a band, and I know that there's no other way to get any quality images other than using my flash kit. But it's definitely a good thing to have because at times you will need to use it, and you're going to want to have that handy. Just make sure you keep batteries in it, because I have driven like 4.5 hours for a show that I knew I was going to have to use this flash kit at, and didn't have batteries, so it was pretty much useless to me. Which kind of merges us nicely into the next area that I was going to talk about, which is batteries. You can get on Amazon for super cheap these Fotiv generic brand for Nikon batteries. I bought them this way, that way I could get a couple more and not have to spend quite as much as if I bought a regular Nikon battery. And I always keep one or two of these fully charged and one of them on my persons besides the one that's already in my camera, because you really don't want to get yourself into a situation where you're at a show and your battery's dead and you have nowhere to charge it, and now you're screwed because you don't have an extra battery. So definitely always keep an extra one on you. That's so important. And the other thing that you're going to want to keep extra things of is memory cards. These suckers fill up fast, especially if you're shooting RAW, and you probably should be shooting RAW. So I always keep a 35 or 32 gigabyte SD card on me. 16 works as well. I wouldn't suggest anything below 8 just because, or even 8 is still a little bit too low for me. I filled up 8 GB memory cards just shooting one show. So you really just want to be careful with how much storage you're letting yourself have. And so I always keep an extra just in case, because battery card or SD cards are very flimsy, and I have actually snapped some on accident. So you don't also want to get into that situation. Always carry an extra on you, and you can never be too safe. That's it about as far as gear goes for me. But my take-home message is probably that your gear is not as important as you are. In a lot of aspects, I guess, but mostly in the means that you can have, you know, a really old body such as myself, and, you know, not the best lenses, and you can still pump out really quality in pictures as long as you know your exposure triangle and the basics and like the core of what photography is and what it means and how to get a good picture. Then I think you can totally achieve anything you want to. Like I said, I mean, I've had that same crop sensor, not that great camera body, for years and years and years now, and it's always done super well by me and absolutely still pulls out beautiful images. So as long as you really know your stuff, you can pretty much do anything you want. And of course, if you have any questions on gear, the gear world is crazy for photography. Shoot any of us an email. I know I would be glad to answer any questions, and I'm sure all of the ladies that have been featured here would also love to help you out. You don't want to spend, you know, gear's expensive. You don't want to spend a couple of $100s on something that you aren't certain is going to be what's best for you. So if you ever have any questions, shoot me an email. You can find all of my email and all of my social medias. There's a contact link for everything. So you can always hit me up and have any questions sent my way. And I hope you guys learned something from this. Thanks, guys.